The Educated Man by Jovito Salonga. Long before your distinguished president invited me to speak on this day of our days, in a point of fact, as far back of my tender years of my childhood, Suleiman has been vividly impressed upon my memory. Every once a while my mom would catch, however faintly, strains of my music from long ago, when my older brother, fresh from what he seems to me wonderful adventures in a world from home, used to sing the sweet song with words that I can still remember. Suleiman beside the sea. I felt ever a child that there was some strange fascinating in that song. For a restless and lying urge to go back, the Solomon seems to possess and haunt my brother at all times. He studies here in what he must have considered the vast years of his life, and he has not quite recovered from the incredible charms and the magic of his love-blessed place. Many years later, that is after the Second World War, year of the President Dr. Arthur Carton learned that I was going to the United States to pursue graduate studies in laws, and he very kind gave me a letter of recommendation addressed to two outstanding universities in America. I would like to let you know that I have been saying this many times, that those letters were given the highest degree of consideration because the school and consideration Suleiman as a university and possess the highest tradition of scholarship and exercises. We now learned some 3 years ago that my former classmate and good friends, Dr. Calderon, accept the offers to become the president of this university. I was happy both from your president and this institution convinced that the induction partners has been forced, and the Solomon could look ahead for ever brightness days and the undying quiet of truth and goodness and beauty. I am therefore grateful for the opportunities to be with my the 30th anniversary. The journey started by the horse Solomon and Dr. and Mrs. David Southland Heaven of the journey started by the Horace Solomon and Dr. and Mrs. and August 28, 1901 has been in the same as long as a thousand years were to called the rule of the man and woman. From the highest office of the humblest teacher and workers, who have dedicated their energies, their talents, their hurt, and even their lives to see that the journey is not interrupted, so that the quiet of may not stop, so that the tradition of excellence may go on, against seemingly endless odds and obstacles without numbers. We would have a fair measure of kind and quiet heroes that went into the making and building of Solomon. But before seem the journey has been long, it has not been tiresome. The journey has just begun. The thrill of the wonderful and adventure will never end. 63 years is a long time, but you are still young. For in this language of the general who has faded away, youth is not entirely a time of life. It is the state of mind. It is not wholly a matter of requite, red lips, and suppleness. It is a temper of the will, a quickly of the imagination, a vigor of the emotion, a freshness of the spring of life. Nobody grew of a merely living a numbers of years. People grow old only at a certain Trill ideas, use many wrinkles in the skin, but to get the upset wrinkles of the soul. Worry, doubt, self-destruct, fear, despite, there are all long. Long years the bow the head at the turn the growing spirit back to dust. You are as the young as your faith, as old as your doubt, as young as your self-confidence, as old as your faith, as young as your hope, as old as your speed. In the general place of your heart, there is a recording chamber. So long as it receives measures of beauty, hope, shame, and courage. So long you're young, when there's a rain of all down and your heart is covered with the snow, forsaking the eyes of gymnast. Then, and then only, as you grow old. May I take a liberty of reminding us the capacity of Solomon to get into the scheme of things and the contribution of the life and spirit of the nation has not been fully tracked. True is that from the rank of the Solomon graduate, great leaders had emerged in the field of the true and action, in the art of science, in government and in private enterprise. But we would all the committing and tragic mistake if we were looked back on all the glory of the past and forgot the challenge of our life. If we were to count and deal an achievement and overlook the many struggles that will require to our more unjust planning and effort but in the vision of the dedication of lifetime. For when we began to look around us, we see the amass the physical instruction of towns and cities, and rebuilding our homes and factories and shops. There has tripped in the excuse case of the internal breakdown. Buildings and edifices have gone up, but the edifice that the constitution, the real soul of the nation, is begin to shake and unless an overall and a constitution of the something about it. The nation's structure may collapse and go up. There is feeling despite and hopeless among those who are overhelped. You in a Suleiman, you cannot do that if you wanted to. For yours the institution of learning went into a mission you cannot abandon without denying your own existence. Yours in the institution that serves the highest end of the free society, namely, to help men develop their potential to the fullest extent possible so that may live meaningful, live in the social order that accords first priority to the instincts, worth, and dignity of the human personality. It is the precisely because of the problem of this own world time as so critical and task to demanding that in become you calculates, and where the ball responding to get into the stream and things to retake your excess of the resources. To the needs of the nation, you're in the work and great relevance. And this task you main function in as university in the produce. You as have to done so at the fast, the educated man. When I say educated man, I do not refer to the educational who have read to the thousand book of magazines. However important reading may be to the life of the mind. One of the most opportunities things in the country is that so much is read by so many who do not know what is read. Because of cheap paper and printing, comics, pulp magazine, and cheap literature have replaced he classed the great masterpieces. As a consequence, and the enormous mental garbage has been piled up beyond our calling capacity of liquidate. writers of history 1,000 years from now. In assessing the quality of education in the Philippines, may have ample reason to say that our school have produced a vast population able to read, but unable to distinguish what is rote reading. It was Mark Twain, I believe, who said he never lost his schooling to interface with this education. When I use the term education, man, I do not mean that the individual who has memorized 1,000 facts and ensemble his mind as a million data, on the basic of which he has earned and strings academies achieved. I do not mean to minimize the importance of memories for the extremely obsessed of say we should able to observe, sort out and remember relevant facts so we may have sound basic for each judgment. Of this has been said that he knew her heart, the name of 30,000 citizens of Athens and Cyrus. Each recorded knew every soldier in his huge army. And how refreshing it would be for our youth to learn my heart Jesus, imitating Sermon of the Mount and manifesting soliloquies of the Shakespeare, the unforgettable dialogue of Plato, and in our own land, the lofty language of Relano and Laurel, the prescient Orvos of Manuel Quezon, and the elegant force of Claro and Recto. How sprinkles and pour our young men and women to remember the history landmark. In our struggle for freedom, from the horizon of Lapu-Lapu to the lonely battle of Del Pilar and Tiral Pass, from the yield of Bagumbayan, where the young Rizal met in the tragic death of dark, dangerous poor Santiago, where the youth of the land suffers of the 1,000 times and meet the 1,000 deaths. Nor do not minimize that significance of degrees and diplomas in a degrees conclusion society such as we have. Except that impresses the danger of mistaking a degree for excellence in what? A college graduate has been described as one who, the ends of the students is presented when he is shaken to cover the intellectual nakedness. When I say educated man, I do not refer to the skilled engineers, the able trial lawyer, the talented musician, the gifted writer, or the accepted surgeon. Far he is from the undertaking the importance of skill and talent. Some times ago, I made references of the facts and well of the abundant natural resources in the country. We do not have sufficient skill to have the country great. Japan is relatively poor in the natural resources, with a land surely enough to sustain 2 million population. But despite the war, the lead west to town and cities, she has discovered and go back to the greater beacon, because she has people of abundant skill. But I would like to submit the proposition that one, because of a great scientist, an able lawyer, or a noted writer, only because he is first, and preeminently, a good man, an abundant talent employed to serve an evil end of the constitution of devil endowedness. What, then, in the educated man. Did he has men of us read a lot? Party, yes, because his reading is seriously and discriminating and uplifting. Is he as the man who remember many facts and events? Party, yes, because the training of memories and wholesale some discipline that required impose the implicit of, and because one cannot make the sound judgment without respecting for remaining facts, is the educated man. Then, one who, because of his skill, unable to produce for himself and his family? Partly, yes. Since educated should teach us how to have good living. But there is one thing we should always remember, and it is that far more important that the making of a living is a living of life, good life, a meaningful life, an abundant life. The educated man lives this kind of life because he has opened his windows upon his mind to great offers and enables ideas, because he is not imprisoned by the printer page, because he has not less interested in the accommodating of degrees when it's the stimulation of his mind and cultivation of generous spirit, because he is interesting of less knowing who is the right, but more importantly, in distancing what is right and defending it is with all the resources at his command. Because he can express himself clearly and logically, with precision and agree. Because he is not aware to authority, but is humble enough to recognize that his best judgmental is impersed for the inherited worth and dignity of the every woman being as a creature of God, because he has a healthy sense of the values, a rate of outlook and defense a composition which purposely educated generates, because whatever he talks about good environment, he is prepared and willing to sacrifice himself for it, and because he lives of relevance of a world in which we live in sharing in the problems of this time and do whatever we can with intelligence and fearless and understanding. In short, it is the responsibility of Solomon, as in all other institutions of learning in this country, to produce the educated man and produce in such number of such his highest of excellence that Solomon products will living influence. In a time of great challenge and in a world of querulous parents, but Solomon is not just any other university. It is a Christian institution. The message of Jesus has a wealth of a meaning it cannot afford to ignore. We ye the salt of the earth, by the light of the world, and we Solomon produced as it has been fast. This kind of man we meaning better appreciate the truth of beauty and world of immersion, not called but only man, can make a nation great and strong. Men who, for true and honor's sake, stand fast and suffering long. Free men who work with others sleep, where others try. their bold nation pillar deep, and lift them to the sky. That's all for the speech of the educated man by Jovito Salonga. My name is Marfo Bisal de Salves Ed 2 English Major Batch 4. Thank you for watching and I hope you learn. Thank you.